Okay, so I decided it was about 1978, I decided to join the Navy Reserves. And the way it started is that I received a postcard in the mail about an APG program, and I was very curious about it.
Both my father and grandfather served in the Navy. My grandfather was a lifer who was actually captain of the Sandpoint Naval Base right over here in Seattle. And my father served 20 years as a supply corps officer in the Navy.
Well, my father served in the Coast Guard for 32 years, and so I grew up in a military family, moving around every 2 or 3 years.
I have a few close friends from high school who I grew up with, and I am still close with today who serve in the military.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Lassick, and I wanted to talk to you about my grandfather who served in World War II as a fighter pilot. He flew P-47s and he was a triple ace, which in the world of fighter pilots, that's a pretty big deal.
My name is Major Warland. I'm in the United States Army. I joined the Army back in 2002, and actually I went to visit a recruiter in 2001 because our country had been attacked, and I was a shift manager at a Starbucks, and I mixed concrete on the weekends and worked at a bar a few nights a week, and pretty much, there was a war going on, so that's why I joined the military.
He later went on to become a general for the U.S. Air Force during Vietnam and had a pretty decorated career. The Boeing Museum of Flight has an exhibit dedicated just to him.
There are a lot of rewarding things that came out of my military experience. One of the things is every morning when you wake up, usually around 4 o'clock in the morning, you're going to work with a lot of the best people that you'll probably ever meet in your whole life.
What I love about him and the memory of him, he passed away in 1990, is that whenever he told us stories about the war, my brother and I, when we were little kids, he never glorified killing or war or death. He told us stories about his men and about funny memories that he had and emotional moments. And so we saw another side of war growing up through his stories, and I appreciate that.
You're doing something that means something. Take, for example, and I was a civilian with a regular type job. It follows a cycle. It goes over and over and over and over again. And while there are routine things in the military, it's part of a story. It's part of the national story.
He's definitely a hero in our family and a hero for our country, and I'm really proud to say that I'm related to him.
And I was signed up and was in the military by December of '78, and it was the Fleet Intelligence Unit. It was an amazing experience, more so than I ever realized. Part of it was I was able to travel, but the big part is that all the people that I met, there was very much a camaraderie. And so when people ask me what the experience was like, it's long-lasting and forever. So when I see people in the military or they talk about it, that I was so honored to be a part of that experience for about 7 years.
As far as what it means to me, I think the biggest thing that I took away from it, besides having a hard time living in one place for more than 3 years, is this whole idea of public service and sacrificing yourself for the greater good of your country, your society.
To me, the experience was very positive. For me personally, it allowed me to experience new places. I lived in Virginia Beach. I lived on the island of Bermuda. I lived in the Bay Area of California. And so I was not always in one place. I was able to kind of travel around and experience new places and new people, new ideas all the time.
All right, well, my sister is Lieutenant Colonel Angela Harris, and she's in the Air Force. She enlisted when she was 19 years old, and she needed money for college, and I did not want her to go. It terrified me.
So this is my grandfather, who I wanted to talk about. He served in the U.S. Army for 36 years, and I'm extremely proud of him. I call him Papa, but his name is Wesley E. Peel, and he's a Major General.
I'd hoped that she would do something else, go straight into college just like I did, get some scholarships and be off and running. So she was in the military from the time she was 19, and at 30 she realized she wasn't going anywhere because she liked this shared sense of camaraderie and a shared sense of purpose. She was a communications major. She had poor eyesight, and couldn't fly. But she now is in charge of protecting our country's cyberspace and our infrastructure, our grids, our nuclear power plants. She has 5 degrees, and she's 47 years old and a career officer. Pretty dang proud of her.
The cool thing is that he's still alive, and so he's 91 years old, or almost 91 in December. I get to talk to him a lot about his service and his lifetime. 36 years is a lot, and he has done a lot.
Hi, I'm Karen Storch, and I wanted to share with you some information about my father, Dr. Nelson Storch. He was a kid who grew up in Brooklyn, New York. He was the third of 3 boys, and very poor. And when World War II broke out, instead of not wanting to go to war, lots of kids back then who were poor were looking forward to it as a cool opportunity to see the world, because they had a very small neighborhood where they were stuck in a city. So when my dad's number got picked for the draft, he was so excited to go down for basic training.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mrs. Martinez, and I'm here to honor my husband, Major Luis Martinez. He is a major in the Army Reserves right now, and he's been in the Armed Services for 31 years. Here's a picture of him. And right now he's currently serving overseas. He's in Jordan, and he's been in Kuwait, and will be moving to Turkey in about a week. He's on a 1-year deployment, and we're just really proud of him for all he's done and sacrificed for our country, including time away from his family, and being able to do the things that he would love to do if he was here at home.
Instead of getting shipped out, the Army did something unusual. They told all of the soldiers they were going to get a free trip home for the weekend. The Army never did that. So he was excited to go home and see his friends and his family. And instead, someone came up to him and said, "Don't go. The Army never gives free trips unless they have something else in mind for you." And he said, "No, I want to go home." He was a ball player, wanted to see his friends, and they said, "No, trust me. Stay here and sign up for all the special schools."
Moving around all the time, I wasn't able to have friends that would stick around, because not only would I move, but they would move away. I'd have a best friend for about a year or two, and then their family would move, or my family would get relocated.
So they had a line full of bulletin boards, and he walked across and he signed his name on every single bulletin board to see if there was a special opportunity.
The only constant was my brothers. So I have 2 older brothers, and the military experience really brought us together really closely, because we were the only ones that could always rely on each other to be there. So growing up, who were my best friends? Both my brothers. And to this day, we still have a very close relationship, because the military and traveling around force us to kind of create this bond. So I have tremendous respect for both my father and grandfather for what they gave up family-wise, for their need and desire to serve this country.
He told me a lot of his stories and the sacrifices he made, which I'm extremely proud of him for. At 17, he hitchhiked about 100 miles and went and signed up to join the military. World War II was what he thought was ending, but he still had 2 years to serve in Germany.
He waited. Nothing happened. He went out with his friends that night, and the next morning they said they had looked for him because they were picking him to train dogs. But he missed his opportunity to work with dogs in the military. So the next day they picked him for another special school, and they trained him to go work with the ski patrol, and they had planned to drop him into the mountains and have him ski down through Austria on a secret patrol. But that didn't work out. So then they told him he was going to be put into a special group, but they couldn't tell him what it was, and that it was time for him to ship out.
One thing that's pretty amazing that he survived, he actually fought in the Battle of the Bulge, and that was the largest battle fought on the Western Front during World War II.
All of his friends that had been in his training and were sent home that weekend, as soon as they got home, they got called back by the Army saying, no, you can't stay home that weekend. And all of them were immediately shipped off to Europe and sent into a terrible battle, and almost all of them died. So he had been very lucky that he stayed for these special trainings. So they lined everyone up on the beach to go on the ships and ship them off to Europe for combat training. And my dad sat there and he waited, and thousands of soldiers were put on the ship, and my dad was one of the last people, and they picked him and said, come with us, you're going to special training.
So he served in 3 wars during his 36 years. He was in World War II, of course, when he was 17, and then he also served in Korea and also Vietnam.
He was selected to be one of the youngest people that had gone through the draft to go into counterintelligence. And so they sent him initially to the Philippines, and when he told me his story, I said, you know, what did you do? So they went through the jungles in the Philippines, and he told me this episode about he had become the leader of his group. And I said, how did that happen? You were a young kid, you were 18 years old. How did you end up being the leader? You went through the draft, you had no training as a leader. And he said, sadly, that he was number 10 in the pecking order in his group, but numbers 1 through 9 had been killed during the war.
He is a 2-star general, like I said, and so he lived all over the U.S. and with my mom, it's my mom's father, her family, they traveled and lived even in Korea and also in Germany.
He was leading his group through the jungle in the Philippines, and all of a sudden one day, a group of men, very little men, appeared, and they thought, what is this? And they realized they had been followed for days by a group of pygmies through the jungle that lived in the jungle. And they had been following them because they lived there silently. And they thought that this group going might be the Japanese that were out to get them. And when they found out they were Americans, they invited them for this big celebration and showed them, not only did they feed them, but they showed them knife throwing skills. This is the knife, a handmade knife from this tribe of pygmies in the jungle that they gave to my dad all these years later, that he brought back to show he had safely led his group of people through the jungle.
One friend in particular, he was close with my older sister, and his younger brother was the same grade as I was in high school, and they're both serving in the Air Force. And in 2013, he was serving in Afghanistan, and he was a pilot, and he was unfortunately in a crash and passed away in April of 2013. And so, that really brought home what it means to be a American, and makes me put into perspective my daily life.
Back then, you were considered a brave man to have gone and served your country and come back. And the idea was that once you'd done it, you were done. It was over with, you got your medal, and you moved on. And no one had thought about the idea of PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. But my dad used to have violent nightmares all the way into his 70s when he died. And as a psychologist, he decided to work with veterans and realized that he and many others kept having these nightmares throughout their lives about what happened, and was one of the people who helped start the process on treating soldiers returning from the war to deal with the tragedies of what they had experienced.
Whenever we say the Pledge of Allegiance at school in the morning, I take that time to think about Reed, who passed, and also just my friends and all the men and women who take the time to serve our country and to give us all of the benefits that we have as Americans.
I was in the United States Naval Submarine Force for 8.5 years, and I wanted to speak to you guys at the end of the video you just watched today. Tomorrow's a great day. I know everybody's excited for it to be off and have fun at home and things like that. But as you just seen in the video, there are several teachers and students who have been affected by the military. And tomorrow is about paying a little bit of honor to those members of the military who have served, to make sure that you have the freedoms that you have, to have this day off, for you guys to enjoy all the things that you get to enjoy, to sit in your home, be safe, feel safe at home, and to be comfortable. And so what I'm asking is, during your time off tomorrow, just take 30 seconds and pause. And just remember all of the military men and women who have served, who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, who have sacrificed for their family, have been away for a year, so that you can have this time off tomorrow and enjoy the freedoms that you have. Thank you.